international web. And we are very happy to welcome you today for 1 hour. Maybe before we start, let me share some pragmatic information about the webinar. First, if you need to activate the simultaneous translations, click on the subtitle tab that you see at the bottom of the screen. It's a CC tab, and you can choose your language. Second, the webinar will be recorded, and you'll receive the replay shortly after the end of the webinar. And three, I would say if you want to ask any question or share comments, please feel free to do so in the chat. We've set aside some time to answer your question at the end of the webinar. So we'll go back to the chat at the end of the webinar. Okay, so again, good afternoon and good morning to everyone. We're very happy to welcome you from all over the world with 28 countries recorded today. The subject we'll explore today will be the motivations, challenges, and keys to success for first-time managers. Maybe let me introduce you to Segos in a few minutes with two figures, 50 and 400,000. So 50 because we are operating in more than 50 countries all over the world, training 400,000 people every year worldwide through 20,000 corporate customers. So this means 70,000 sessions a year, just a few figures like that if you don't know us. And Segos is a real partner in learning and development. We're helping organizations transform their people to drive sustainable performance through international training projects, ready-to-use training solutions, and outsourcing and learning services. Our core business is management and leadership. That's why we're here, but we don't do only that. We are very good also on personal development, soft skills, collective intelligence, working with others, sales and client relationship, project management, a lot of things, a lot of skills that we are dealing with. Let me introduce you to the four people that are here.
Yes, welcome everyone. So happy to be with you today, but I'm not alone. So, well, let me introduce the speakers today, starting with myself. So I'm Christelle Delavaux. I'm the personal development author and expertise manager for the Segos Group. And I've previously worked on development centers for managers for several years. So I know very well this story about managers. Laurence leads the bespoke training department for all the projects related to management, soft skills, and leadership. Tina from Germany has been leading several departments within Segos, Germany, and now heads the whole product offer in Germany, especially on management solutions. Hello, Tina. And Thiago has been training international managers for several years and is a key actor of our Leader of the Future program for Crescimentum. Crescimentum is the Brazil entity of the Segos Group. Welcome, Thiago. And going through our agenda today, so we're going to see, is it difficult today to identify and recruit manager? Is it a challenge for organization? Will be the first step. After that, we'll see how they're taking their role. Do they feel support when taking their role, the first-time manager today? After, we'll see how the manager are drivers of performance and change. And maybe everything is not so perfect. We'll see that they're committed, but also sometimes under pressure. And last but not least, a first-time manager maybe needs still to develop some competencies and to really be comfortable in their role. So it will be the last stop of our webinar today.
Thank you, Christelle. So what we are presenting today is the results of a survey that we have launched last year, asking questions to 4,271 first-time managers. With first-time managers, we mean people that have been managers for less than 2 years. Those managers were all over the world, well, let's say in 3 continents, 10 countries, and they were all in companies or organizations, so public or private, of more than 50 employees. And The interesting thing also is that we have not asked only questions to first-time managers. We have also asked questions to human resources. That means human resources directors or head of training. Some questions dedicated to the HR, some questions dedicated to the managers, and some other questions you'll see have been asked to managers, but with a mirror effect, kind of same questions with the HR. And sometimes the results are very interesting. So let's start with the beginning. Let's say what happens just before becoming a manager. The first question we have asked was to the human resources. In your organization, do you encounter difficulties in identifying or in recruiting individuals taking on a management role for the first time? And this was the first surprise. Let's say this answer was the first surprise for us because, you know, maybe you have read here and there that nobody wants to be a manager anymore and so on. Well, we discovered that not that much because people said, yes, we do have difficulties, but only for 42%, which means that 58% of the people said, of the HR people said, no, it's not that a problem. So it's first surprise, let's say, good surprise. But then we see that we have a lot of discrepancies regarding, depending on people, on the countries, continent, and so on. For example, in Singapore, 67% of the HR people say, yes, we do have difficulties. Well, we know that the labor situation in Singapore is quite tense. They have an underemployment rate at less than 2%. So let's say it's more a recruiting issue, global recruiting issue, not only recruiting a manager. In Latin America, only 37% of the HR say, yes, we have problems to find managers. And we have talked about that with Thiago before. We know that in Latin America, becoming a manager is kind of a safety, financial security. So it's quite easy to find people who wants to be managers. In Europe, though, 59% of the people, of the human resources people say, yes, we do have difficulties to recruit future managers. And again, within Europe, we have a lot of discrepancies. For example, in Northern Europe, it's quite difficult. But in people such as Italy, I've been living in Italy, so I always want to talk about Italy. In Italy, 28% of the people say yes. So that means that 72% of the people say no, we don't have any problem. Well, we know that in Italy and in some European countries like that, becoming a manager is more seen as a natural step in the career. So, okay, first, it's not that big a problem, then it depends on countries. Then we have asked the people who had said yes, we're facing difficulties. The question we have asked them was, what kind of difficulties do you encounter? And 68% of the people say that the main difficulties were that the employee in place do not always have the qualities required to become team managers. So by qualities, we guess that it means they don't have maybe management or at least human qualities like decision-making, like emotional intelligence, like accountability, kind of leadership qualities, something like that. And it's 68%. On second, 36%, they say, well, the people don't want to become manager. So we see that it's only the second. So it's something around a perceived lack of human qualities necessary to become a manager and a lack of willingness. But I would say that just to focus on France, because there is a specificity on France, which is not written in the slides because it's an international webinar, but still for French people connected or people who could be interested by that. In France, the specificity is that the rate of people who don't want to become manager is as high as the rate of when the answer is they don't have the quality required. So it's really a specificity in France that it's a balance between both. First, they don't have the qualities, and second, maybe people don't want to become managers. We'll see around this webinar, we'll find some explanations why in France, maybe the management position is not as valued as it should be. But basically, we can say that human qualities are highly valued in management positions. Okay. Then another question still to the human resources is, what are the two main reasons when you choose to promote an employee to a managerial role? Well, before that, there was a question, do you prefer to, when you promote, is it more that you promote a manager from inside, or do you recruit managers from outside? Well, all over the world, the most majority said we would go more on an internal promotion. And then we said, okay, if it's internal promotion, what are the skills? What are the reasons why you choose one person or another? The first one is the human or managerial skills. So again, we can say that if we are human resources, we know the people in the company, we know who, for example, by a transversal work has demonstrated to have leadership, to have interpersonal relationship, interpersonal intelligence, and we can figure out that those qualities will be helpful to become a good manager. And second, the expertise in the team's field. And it's true that here we have the ideal situation if we want to promote someone on a management role, is that if he has the human quality, human skills, and the expertise as well, it's ideal. So it's globally how people answer. But there is a specificity. And it's very interesting. It's a real intercultural vision of management, and that's very interesting. For example, in Germany, human resources people say that the main reason is the seniority in the organization and understanding of how it works. So that means if someone has been in the company for a long time, knows the process, know the people, know how it works, then it's better. In Brazil, it's the reason is different. They say their engagement and performance in the current role. So if someone is committed, engaged, performant in another role, then is more supposed to become a manager. So we had this luck today to have two guests that are representative of this discrepancy. So I would like to ask maybe first Tina and Tiago, Tina in Germany, Tiago in Brazil. How can we explain these figures? Tina, maybe?
Yeah, pleasure. So, as you said, it's quite interesting that seniority plays such an important role. And, for many people, many first-time managers, it's the next, let's say, logical step in hierarchical organization. And leadership is often seen as highly demanding. So companies like to choose people they already know, whose working methods are familiar, and they are considered that, let's call it a safe choice, right? So we know who we are promoting, and this person has proven his or herself for quite some time. So this is what you can see here in the figures.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Tiago, about the engagement and performance.
Yeah, how you say this difference make a lot of sense when we look at the Brazilian context. In Brazil, leadership is strongly associated to financial stability and social mobility, and this is something we observe across different clients and industries. Many professionals want to move to management roles because leadership is seen as a concrete path to growth and security. Besides that, Brazilian organizations tend to promote those who show strong engagement and deliver results quickly. Performance becomes the most visible sign. Seniority still matters, but it often second, especially in more competitive environments.
Okay, thank you to put some light and explain us why we have these figures. Thank you so much. It's very, helpful. And then another question that we have this time to the managers. We've asked, were you the one who initiated the transition to a management position? So before becoming a manager, did you ask for it or not? And 69% of people said yes. Well, unfortunately, in this figure, I would say we didn't ask, are you a man or a woman? I'm sure there would be a difference in answering yes or no if you're a man or woman, but whatever there will be, that is another subject. But what we can understand from here is that whatever the gender, people who are becoming manager were the one asking for it. So if you want to be a manager, say, ask for it. We could also say that if we are human resources people, it could be good to go and ask people who never express the desire if they would be okay to become manager also, because there is a talent pool and we need to find it. This is very interesting. It's a question we have asked to managers and also to human resources. Managers, what did attract you to the role of manager? So we have asked it before deciding to become a manager, before maybe saying I want to become a manager, what was your main reasons? Were your main motivations? And we have had the same question. In your opinion, HR people, what does attract people to become management? And there is a discrepancy in the results, which is very interesting. Both of them say a better salary. Okay, not in the same proportion, but more or less, yeah, we want to become manager. We know we're going to have more responsibilities and we're going to have more income. So we agree on that. The interesting thing is that HR people would say the second main reason why people want to become manager is because they would climb the organizational ladder. But that reason comes only in fifth position for managers. Managers who would more say, I want to solve problem, I want to provide solution, I want to contribute to my organization's success, I want to have a performing team and supporting development and so on. So climbing comes really late. And that, I think that's very interesting. We can understand that, let's say, companies and organizations are really a microcosm of the society we're living in. And this shows that career advancement is maybe not a priority anymore. We know that it's a surprising gap for us. And when we see the result, we said, first-time managers does not mean young managers. You can become a first-time manager at the age of 50 or whatever. But let's say globally, most of the first-time managers are young managers. And we know the evolution of the society. We know that young people, they don't dream of becoming the boss, of having power or whatever. What they want is having a job which is interesting, that has an impact on world, on environment, on people. They want to develop other people, and they want to have a balance between professional life and personal life, work-time balance. So that's really for us very interesting to have these discrepancies, to see that career advancement is not a priority anymore, and rising higher in the hierarchy is no longer a sign of success. Well-being and personal fulfillment, impact, balance are just as important. So it appears that identifying a future manager depends on their commitment, their mindset, but also their personal leadership qualities. In some cases, this promotion can be seen as something like climbing in the ladder or not. And let's now look at how the transition to the new position takes place.
Thank you, Laurence. So, yes, what we can say, first insight, very interesting, we're going to go deeper, is that most first-time managers received soft skill, management, and leadership training before taking up the role. So that's interesting to start. So the question we asked around this transition to management is to manager. We asked, did you benefit from specific support when you took on your managerial role? What is very interesting here is that 74% of the first-time managers say, yes, I have been supported on taking on my role. I have received maybe coaching, training, mentoring, whatever form it could take, but I had a support. And it is very consistent through the different regions. As we see the score, LATAM is the highest, but everything is quite close here. And maybe what we can say today is that organization takes the time to design some specific training program around management to give the good skills, set of skills for manager to succeed in this very crucial moment when they take up their role. But still 26% of his appointed newly managers say, no, I took my position without any support. So that's still a lot. And I think there is still some way to go to support them. So a good indicator, a good trend to see that there is more and more support and still some ways and things to do for them. And it was even sometimes, and most anticipated, for those who were supported, 56% of the first-time managers say, yes, I have attended a training before taking my role. 44% say, I have attended training after taking my role. But the majority have already received soft skills, leadership, management tools to be more competent, to be more confident, maybe with their role, even before they are identified, Laurence, before they have been promoted, they have received a kind of full equipped, sorry, I was on the previous one. They have received full information to really perform. And another thing, and we see that managers and HR are very aligned. We can see that for Germany and Brazil, it's even higher. So it's a real trend. And 46% of managers said, I received advice on mentoring, as I speak about coaching just before. So it means that there is a kind of accompanying manager on their jobs, even from internal people, and there is a real support for them. So it's the training is now in a kind of continuum before and after the promotion. It's very interesting to see this trend. It's quite new. So we can change now. A manager feel also well equipped to fulfill their missions. So we ask them, to what extent do you agree with the following statements regarding your position? And you see the score are very high. 95% of them say, yes, I have a clear vision of my role as a manager. I understand what I have to do. I understand my mission. 92% to the question about the information say, yes, I have the information, I have all the tools, I have all the kit to communicate effectively with my team and to support the change, to support really the transformation in the organizations. And it's quite the same for HR. So I think we say that we are a step where organizations now are really well structured. They can propose something very well framed to first-time managers. So these managers are well equipped, well supported, so ready to go. So let's see if everything is just so nice. So now we're going through the first-time manager going through performance and support for change in organizations. And the first insight is that performance, and you said a little bit that, Laurence, just before, performance is at the core of a first-time manager's mission. Let's go deeper. So to the question, what are your top 3 priorities in your current role as a manager? 39% says, build a high-performance team. Very strong. And we can say it's even stronger for Germany and for Brazil. Achieve growth and profitability targets. There are 36% to answer that in the second position. And same score, 36% to say, I optimize my three top priorities is to optimize work processes. We can see that HR are aligned with a focus a little bit more about growth and profitability. But what we can say is that really the orientation of first-time managers now is to go to performance, to be very close to this profitability. And that's the first thing, the first corpus of skills, of objective they want to go for. Just after, very close, come ensure team cohesion and prevent conflicts. There are 25% to say that. Ensure work-life balance for team members and retain talents. So it means first of all, they want to have the performance, they want to build a high-performing team. And after they have in mind that to do so, they need to build a strong team cohesion. They need to retain talent. They need to have this work-life balance inside the teams. So the two are working together, and that's a good thing to see this well-being corpus just here. But we can see that they are very focused on the performance. And we can go on. And we also wanted today to discuss about transformations in company. First transformation we wanted to focus on is AI. So we asked HR first, within your organization, are managers being supported in adopting, integrating AI into their managerial practices? And there are 68% who say yes, it's essential, and managers and the teams have already embraced AI tools. So this is the real reflect the real picture that the subject is very important. There is a real emergence, of course, around AI, and that organizations are addressing really this AI subject. There are 11, it's small, 11% to say, no, this is not a priority for my organization today. So it's quite small anyway. And if we take the global point of view, the international point of view, we can see that LATAM is very high, Brazil is very high, Germany in Europe is maybe the highest. Okay, Europe is 63, Germany is 71. Maybe we could have an explanation around Singapore with 60. What we think is that maybe people in Singapore are very at ease with all the technical things, evolution in technology, that, each people is taking this by his own. And so they don't need really maybe as managers to really, and HR to really take a part in this story because they are quite autonomous around AI. But now I've said that, I would like to hear Tina and Thiago around the subject, maybe starting with Tina. Tina, what is the reality in your country around AI, about supporting AI in organization? Could you share that with us?
Yeah, for sure. So it's quite funny. So we have that AI paradox here in Germany. The interest is high and the usage is very mixed. So on the one side, we have those many employees who are not using AI consistently, for example, due to skill gaps or unclear use cases. And on the other side, we have a lot of people who are using AI really on a daily basis. So whether if you're a manager or an employee, and of course, I mean, that happens a lot of time. People are using AI, even if it's not quite sure if this specific AI technology is allowed or not. Okay, I mean, that happens. In general, I can say that a lot of German leaders are a little bit more skeptical about those about the usage or the results of AI. And we also have that strong GDPR. However, we know that we have to use AI to be more efficient, work more efficient. And so companies expect managers and employees to, let's say, proactively build AI skills, not only by training, but also by learning on their own.
Very interesting. Yes,
Yeah.
the balance between we can give you some tools, and at the same time waiting from you to go in a sort of proactivity way to use, to interest yourself to this subject. Very interesting. And GDPR in Europe, you're right to mention it. It's so strong that such a subject also here. So yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Tina. And Thiago from Brazil. Could you tell
Yeah.
us what is your point of view around AI and managers in Brazil?
In Brazil, it's important to say we'll love new technologies. In Brazil, new technologies are adopted very quickly, and AI is often seen as a shortcut to efficiency, and which is often read as learning agility. If that's the case, it's important to bring this into everyday work, even if the use is still quite basic. But there's also a strategic side to this. If AI can take care of operational tasks, leaders may have more time to focus on conversations, people development, innovation, team dynamics. And that brings me to another important thought looking ahead. AI may also change entry-level roles, which affects how people learn before become leaders. And this is a real challenge for HR people.
Thank you so much, Thiago. Yes, that's very interesting to see that it's really you said we are quite of kind of advanced with technology, very at ease, very curious about that, and you are considering how you can integrate IA to be a better leader, to have time to do something else, and so that's really
Exactly.
the mindset is very interesting. Thank you. So we've asked, if we go on, we've asked the same questions or kind of same question to managers. Have you integrated the use of AI into your own practical managerial practices? Sorry. And they say yes at 77%. So it's even much higher than the score of HR people we've seen just before. So there are 8% to say no, I don't see why I would use AI as a manager. It's very small part. We can see from a regional point of view that it's very, very high still for Brazil. It's 91%, so high, Thiago, for manager point of view, 72% for Germany. And now you can see 91% for Singapore. So managers say, yes, of course, I integrate AI in my day-to-day life as a manager. Because probably, as we said before, I think in Singapore, people are very at ease with technology, with all that stuff, and it's easier for them to go for it. What we can say maybe is now to push this practical in management. Maybe managers need to have some user cases to know how, in which situation, which condition they can use it. Maybe to have kind of exchange with other managers around this subject to share the practices. Maybe that's what the organization should do now to go further in the use of AI. And if we come through another transformation, now considering CSR, we ask manager, do you agree with the following statements concerning CSR? Scores are really high again. They say, yes, my team and I are highly committed to my organization CSR efforts. 80% say my organization has a CSR policy, and 75%, it is my role and my responsibility to embody and implement my organization's CSR approach. And we can see that it's quite the same score for Germany, even higher for Brazil. We speak a little about that before. We'll speak about that again in the webinar. So now CSR is really in the day-to-day lives of organization. There is a kind of maturity. We are in the subjects. It's so nice to see that managers are very committed also to that subjects. So maybe the subject is not to say CSR or AI, because, for the moment, we kind to oppose the two things, but maybe it's more to say CSR and AI, because the two subjects seems to be very present in the organizations. And now, Laurence, so we've seen that managers are very motivated, very engaged, very key actors around performance and also around change in organizations. But maybe there is another side of the story, because we see that they have a lot of pressure and workload also. So this is another reality. So, Laurence, let's explore that with you.
Thank you, Christelle. And yes, unfortunately, you're right. Organization invests in the quality of life of the manager. We see that many things are implemented, but so we've asked the human resources a question within your organization, which initiatives are implemented to ensure the quality of life of managers? Okay, all the results are high, maybe a little bit where we know that Asia has a lighter social regulation, so maybe Singapore, the figures are lower. We know that in Europe, we have a stronger protection system, so figures are quite high, and they are higher in LATAM. Well, okay, we promote a climate of cooperation and trust. During recruitment, we ensure that the managers can act in alignment with their ethics and values. It is really in line with what we're living in the society. So what we see here is that, let's say, culture matters more than procedures. So many things are implemented around trust, cooperation, values, ethics, but probably it takes precedence over more formal or structured initiatives like maybe this is a bit European, like we have the workload regulation interview, training to help managers to prevent psychosocial risk, because it really depends also on national regulations. But more or less, let's say the first understanding of this slide is that it's more about culture more than procedures. We have this discrepancy on Latin America because well, we know that there, the topics like CSR, diversity, and inclusion are gaining significant momentum. And Brazil is a very interesting example. Despite being a country of strong contrast, let's say, it has made major progress on sustainability and inclusion over the past decades. And we know that Brazil has hosted the Earth Summit in 1992 and again in 2012. And this has accelerated awareness around environmental responsibility, diversity, well-being, and so on. So I would like to ask you, Tiago, from your perspective, what do you see? How do you see these topics evolving in Brazil these days?
This is going to give away my age because
I'm sorry, I didn't want that.
the Eco 92, Eco 1992, is quite personal for me because I can still remember its impact. I was still at school making posters about environmental protection, and it really shaped the way a whole generation in Brazil thought about collective responsibility. Over time, that mindset expanded into other areas. Brazil's history of inequality and asymmetry of privileges made inclusion a very concrete drive, not just a theoretical one. In many Brazilian organizations we work with, inclusion is not just symbolic, it's a part of leadership agenda. Many companies invest seriously in affirmative programs, especially to prepare underrepresented groups for leadership roles, something we support at Crescimentum across different clients. And in similar ways, well-being and mental health shape the leadership development agenda. In Brazil, these conversations have become much more visible and socially legitimized. We've seen in different organizations employees becoming more attentive to leadership behaviors in that directly impact belonging, psychological safety, and quality of life at work. These subjects are not just nice to have, they carry real social value, and leadership is increasingly rated by how seriously these topics are taken in everyday decisions.
Thank you, Tiago. Yes, we see that Brazil is really ahead and has ever been ahead because on this subject, for example, in 92, I don't think a lot of children in Europe were doing what you explained. So thank you very much. Thank you for this explanation. So we have asked quite the same question to managers regarding your own quality of life at work. What do you think about the following statement? And you see the figures. Everybody said, yes, I can act in accordance with my ethics and value. I work in a climate of cooperation and trust. So we all agree on that, like the previous slides. And I do have the necessary autonomy to carry out my role as a manager. So let's say and it's like that quite all over the world, we do work in a positive working conditions, but my working time is regularly increasing, and it's even higher in Singapore. So let's say we have something around, okay, we're putting positive working conditions for people, but still, it appears that there is a structural issue on working hours, or on working time. And it's really a pity because, like, for example, I told you at the beginning, French people don't really, well, some people don't want to become managers anymore. We know that in some countries there is a problem of recruiting or promoting managers. Well, management is also building a successful team. It's unleashing the power, the potential, making people grow. It's really something that I found enthusiastic. And it's a pity that it appears that we may have a structural issue on working time, not working conditions, but working time. And another question that we asked, do you agree with the following statement? It's about, well, for example, do I lack time to invest the human dimension of the role? And let's say, well, 53-47, half, more or less. People say, well, sometimes yes, sometimes no. Do I have difficulty to get different generation works together? 44% say yes. Let's go back to the figures for human resources. Human resources say 60% say that managers are lacking the time to invest the human dimension of the role. How can we understand this figure? I think first of all, the human resources may have a preventive, a protective vision of what managers do. They see the managers working and not maybe have enough time to invest and manage the human dimension. I think it's also because we really we work a lot with women, as in Segos, we work a lot with human resources. And when someone asks us to build management training, most of the time they will say we need the managers to grab the human dimension of the role, because sometimes managers would say, okay, I'm in charge of that. But as soon as there is a human problem, a human issue, it's a question of human resources, which is not the case. Human dimensions in really part of the management role. So that could be a way of understanding this little discrepancy. It doesn't seem so difficult to have many generations work together or creating cohesion, I would say. And there is a specificity to Germany, where we have 53% of managers saying, yes, I got difficulty to have different generation working together. So we know that now we have 4 to 5 generations on the same working place. That can be difficult. And 49% say, I have difficulty to create a team cohesion. And we're very, very lucky because we have Tina here. What's your opinion about that, Tina? How can we explain these figures?
Yeah, this is actually quite interesting. So if your main motivation is to become a manager, is not people management, but more climbing ladder, increasing your salary, naturally, of course, leading people, building a team feels more difficult, isn't it? And of course, today's teams are far more generationally diverse. So this also makes cohesion harder for leaders who were promoted for their expertise rather than for their people skills. And I guess this is what we can see here also in the figures.
Okay, thank you, Tina. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So faced with daily challenges and increasing pressure, one conviction stands out. Beyond processes and tools, it's above all the human dimension that make the real difference in the role of manager.
Exactly. That's the core of a subject. And first insight, so interesting as well, is that for both managers and HR, clear and transparent communication is key to be a good manager. So I would say that the era of AI, it's so nice to see that, because it means it stays a kind of prerequisite to develop emotional and social skills. So that's a good indicator as well in this context. So we asked another question to both manager and HR. In your opinion, what are the top 3 qualities needed to be a good manager? So interesting to see. First, as I said before, clear and transparent communication comes first, with 42% for managers, 42% for HR. They are completely aligned. Coming just after decision making, we can understand that making some decisions in this context, transformation context, difficult context, it's important. It seems to be important for manager and HR, even more for Brazil. I don't have the time, but maybe I would have loved asking Thiago more about that. And third one, we see empathy with 30%. And it's even more for Germany with 48%, which is the first quality HR thought to be a first managers now. And that's so interesting, Tina. I wanted to hear about this fact. What is your thought? What is your reaction about this figure for Germany?
Yes. So leading as an example, I will start with that one, has strong cultural and historical roots. So we expect managers to really act as visible role models, live the values and behaviors of the organization. And we believe that employees tend to mirror their leaders' conduct. So credibility comes from consistent actions rather than words, right? And
Yeah.
how is this connected to empathy? So because we see leaders as role models, how they treat people matters just as much as what they do. And this is why empathy ranks so highly, in my opinion. If you really understand the individuals and if you're acting accordingly, this is really the foundation for credible and people-centered leadership.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Tina. I hope when we do this barometer again in 2 years, empathy would be higher for everyone, for every region. It is my wish, but still going. And now, so concerning the skills to develop, if we come on the development matter, we asked to HR population to better perform in the managerial roles. Which competencies should first-time manager prioritize in your opinion? And the answer, again, clear and effective communication. So that's very must, not nice to have, must have maybe. After is coming team leadership and motivation. It's very strong also in Brazil. And so now you don't have management on one side and leadership on the other side. Leadership is a real part on your managerial role. So they need to have really engaging managers on board, I think, and come after fast and strategic decision making. And once again, Tina, if we read all this, we have something really astonishing about Germany with stress management and resilience, which is coming to 33%. HR in Germany say we need really people to develop on these specific skills. How can you explain that?
Yes, so usually first-time managers are under high pressure from day one. Everything they do is visible. And even for themselves, not only, but for their managers and their team. So the pressure to perform is quite high, right? So what HR is looking for is they are setting the priority that those first-time managers first need stability, have more or less that resilience, and then afterwards you can build everything on top.
Thank you so much. It's so interesting because it's a real resource, a key competency nowadays. Thank you, Tina.
Yeah.
Okay, and here is another view around training. How people are training. Are they trained by organizations or are they really autonomous about training? What is interesting is that there is a balance between being the CEO of my development, okay? I find some things to just develop myself. And also at the same time, organizations put some disposal, some training processes around management for me to be a better manager. So it's half-half. That's very interesting. So they say, yes, I train myself directly on using online resources, 51%. I take training courses from for my managerial role, training from organizations, I'm quite sure, 45%. I attend professional events, 42%. And what is very interesting, it's 39% saying I'm informed through social media. And you see that HR say at 50%, they stay informed via social media. So there is a gap. Maybe HR don't imagine people are using media, social media today to take some courses around management and leadership. And we can see that peer group, I'm part of a peer group, the social learning is a very strong trend today. And it's still, 34%, 37% for HR, very present in this scenario. And finally, to conclude, so first-time managers are very satisfied with the performance because we've asked them, how do you evaluate your own management performance? And they are 89% to say, I have a good performance. So we can see that well-engaged, well-motivated, well-trained, but we can't neglect that some subjects still need to be addressed, such as pressure, workload, and that we can't do anything about that as an organization, as a training company. So Laurence, maybe you can share very quickly with us kind of projects we made for clients.
Yeah, thank you. Those are just examples of management training that we have with different clients all over the world. We usually, when we build a management program, we will focus on the values of the customer, or the management or leadership principles, and we will build the path according to it's really with the client ADL, let's say. And you can see that, for example, someone like Carrefour or Generali or Aston Martin are different companies, so the training will be completely different and very adapted to the company itself. And Christelle, what do we have on shelf?
On the shelf. On the shelf training, well, we have different kind of duration, different kind of pedagogical approach. So yeah, for example, the fundamentals of management on 2 days, okay, training. You have My Story. My Story is a specific video, a series with 10 episodes. You can follow the day-to-day life of a first-time manager. And we have, for example, leadership, so training about leadership and management in 1 day, for example, and so many other ones we have in our global collection.
Thank you. So
well,
for your questions.
Yes, and just before, just tell you that if you could, before going out of the platform when the webinar is off, just answer a questionnaire which is going to be disposed in your browser. So if you could just take 2 minutes to answer, it's so important for us to have your feedback and to just, make better next time, maybe around webinars. Thank you so much by advance. So, questions now, Laurence, Thiago, Tina.
Sharing. Let's see, what are the questions?
Yes. So I have a question here. If we pick for management positions people who are already very engaged, well-performing and skilled in marketing, this across the organization, it tracks that they would use same arguments in survey. Oh, sorry, I don't see the... So maybe I will need some information to answer. I don't know, Laurence, if you have something to tell about that.
Frankly, I was reading other questions and I didn't listen to you very carefully. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I have another question if you want.
Okay, let's go.
How to integrate abroad new managers in the team. That's a very typical situation because nowadays teams are all over the world, and even though they are abroad or not, actually, even in the same country, sometimes you get people in your team that would work remote. And it happens that in a team, you get people that are always remote. So it's really something, it's a very important question. Thank you for the one who has asked for it. Integrating someone who is remote, I would say, first, if you can meet him once, it's better. But maybe you can't if it's someone abroad or very, very far from you. I would say it would be the same rituals than when someone is physically here. You may have introduction to the team, so organizing a meeting to introduce him to the team, personal face-to-face meeting, even if it's through Teams or whatever. Again, I would have needed some more details about what are the problems in integrating someone who's abroad.
Maybe I can add something on that from my personal experience. So what I valued quite a lot is, when the pandemic hit and everyone was just connected via Teams or whatever web session tool you were working with. For me, it was really helpful that I was in touch with my team really on a frequent basis, and that we all had the camera turned on. Right. So for me, that's a simple thing, being in touch on a frequent basis and having the camera on.
Yeah. So what you mean is informal things also. Camera on.
Yes.
Events when you can create. It's important that the people can create personal links within each other.
Yes.
If you want a team cohesion, for example, you need the people to create link. And the important thing will be also when you have a meeting with people remote is to have you settle the rules of the game. Let's say you settle the rules of the game, saying, well, your objective will be that there will be trust in the team, even with the people that are abroad or remote or whatever. And this trust can exist only if you settle the rules that allow trust. And that makes security. So that could be some clues. Let's check the other questions. This presentation will be shared. Yes, everything will be shared.
Yes, there were a question about gender also, but I think you answered that, Laurence, because in the next edition, we will have information relative to gender, women and men. Where are the differences and how they're leading the position and the differences. So I think it will be interesting. We'll see that in the next one. And I think it was maybe quite clear because I don't see so many questions we didn't answer before.
How to motivate and attract new generation for this role. Yeah. Because this is what I said. For me, it's a wonderful role when you're a manager. Yeah. I would say give meaning. That's the main thing. Why do you want to become a manager? Because probably you want to have a successful team. You want to unleash potential of people. You want to help people to grow because it's personal development to become a manager. And when you become a manager, you learn about yourself because becoming a new manager means, for example, that you have to make things clear about what are you okay to release. Are you okay with the fact that sometimes you will not be liked by the people because you will have unpopular decision to make, for example? Are you okay to leave the power to someone else? And can you release control, for example? All those questions that are here when you become a new manager.
Yeah, and maybe just
grow. I'm sorry.
And maybe to choose the good moment to become a manager. It's not a rush. New generation have time maybe sometimes to make their experience, to just go through training around, we spoke about resilience, about stress management, about, know how to go with your priorities. So maybe the advice you could give them is take your time, begin the training around what could be very useful when you will be a manager, and take the time to become a manager. There is maybe something about timing.
We had also authenticity is important when you want to become a manager.
Yeah.
So be ready to be true and authentic. And Tina and Tiago, if you want to say anything about that, you can go.
Well, I think it's the end of our timing today for this
Oh, yes, it is.
webinar. Already. Thank you so much, everyone, to be here with us today. It was such a pleasure to have you. Thank you, Laurence. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Thiago, for every part of the word today. It was so nice.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Bye
Nice
bye.
having you.
Sure. And see you for another edition in a few months. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.